how much did you make 5 months ago? I think September, October. How much were you making those days?
Yeah, I was making around 3K per month.
How much did you make last month?
30K.
30K. Holy shit.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you, of all the people, do you think I have what it takes to be a 20, 30K month closer in the future? Or is that, I don't know. I don't know how many people ever actually get there. Yeah.
Bro, fuck everyone else. Yes, you do. And I'm not saying this to hype you up. Yes, you have what it takes to get there.
Objection handling word tracks, because that's what hot on Instagram, and that's where you think you're losing the deal, is because of the objections you get at the end of the call. 100% that is not.
All right, we're live again.
We're live again?
We are live. We are live here in Austin with my boy Chris.
What's up?
This is the first time that we are doing this in person. And it's ironic or not ironic, not a coincidence that this is also the biggest transformation that we've had up to date. So let's dive in, man. Chris, how much did you make 5 months ago? I think September, October. How much were you making those days?
Yeah, I was making around 3K per month.
3K per month. How much did you make last month?
30K.
30K. Holy shit. And if we could back up a little bit, so tell the people firstly who you sell to and the avatar type, what do you sell?
Yeah, so we sell career coaching for product managers. So it's people who are in smaller startups or mid-sized tech companies who are trying to make it into the main thing, the big dogs, the Googles, Netflix, Apples, Amazons. And so we help them figure out how to get callbacks, how to interview, how to negotiate their compensation. Mm-hmm. So really high-level type A prospect, very skeptical, very logical. They're already earning pretty well, anywhere from, I would say, at least 100 to even upwards of people who are making 700, 900K right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like, some broke kid who's 18-year-old trying to get into drop shipping.
Yeah. A lot higher level people,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big limiting belief that people have, is like, oh, that stuff doesn't work on high level people,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we get into all the tactical stuff, man, I just want to know a little more about you, bro. Like, your story is pretty crazy. Take us back a little bit. I want to understand two areas of your life, right? One is when you had first got started in high ticket sales. Mm-hmm. And this is right after we started working together. What was the conversation you and I had? How were you feeling those days?
Yeah, so before high ticket sales, I was doing missions work in South Korea for 3 years. Okay. I was a Bible teacher, missionary, youth pastor. So that's what I was doing. I loved it. It was a time of my life. Unfortunately, my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and so I knew that I had to start supporting her. I have a degree in English and education. I went to seminary, so not a lot of money-making, formal training. Mm-hmm. But I knew I was always good at talking. I knew I was always good at persuading. I knew that I just cared a lot about people, and so I thought, okay, what can I transfer these skills into? Always thought I'd do well at sales. I thought about tech sales, didn't want to go be a BDR for a year or two before I could really become an AE. Mm-hmm. Heard about high ticket. Shout out Shelby Sapp.
Yes.
Shout out to Shelby Sapp, man, that pink Porsche. And I heard about these crazy months that these kids were ripping, and I was like, holy crap, is this possible? Can you actually make that kind of money? Joined Dylan Vargar's community. That was great. And I got into my first closing offer kind of straight off the rip. But yeah, did not do well. That first closing offer, that first month or two, I was tanking. Yeah, it was a biz op for doctors, essentially. So it's teaching doctors how to build passive income so they can get more time and financial freedom.
So still fairly high level people.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so that offer, it was a weird offer, man. It was, we didn't have a sales manager. We just had a script that the offer owner gave us, but nobody was reviewing calls for me. He just said, stick to the script, don't deviate from it. And so I'm saying all the words on the script, and people are not closing. And I have no idea what I'm doing wrong, because I can look back at my calls. But obviously, everything I said and asked on the call, I asked because I thought that was the right thing to ask. And so when I look back on it,
you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, right? How do I know what I'm doing wrong, right?
Right.
And then Diego made the connection with you.
Shout out to Diego.
Yeah, Diego, man, you changed my life. He closed me on Dylan's offer. He introduced him to you.
Scammed you, bro.
Yeah, man, this guy's getting kickbacks from me. But no, I saw some of your content on YouTube after that initial call, and I saw that you were also selling to doctors and to a higher level avatar. And so when I was seeing all these other sales gurus on, Instagram and TikTok, and they're trying all these, reframes and objection handling, like, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and, what kind of man, just all these things. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, doctors are not going to buy this crap. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to work on them. But then I would see some of those live call reviews that you were having with doctors, and you had them in the palm of your hand, like they could not squirm. And I was like, man, I need to learn how to sell to these higher level prospects.
And so we had the so Diego introduced us. We had the first conversation. I'm thinking, oh, we got a fucking referral. This is about to be a lay down. And he
Yeah, yeah,
sells to
yeah.
higher level people. But that's not how it went.
That's not how it went.
So we hopped on the call. You gave me an objection.
Yeah.
What was your objection?
So basically, I got into high ticket sales, and I think within 3 weeks was when we hopped onto our first call. And so I had basically had maybe 5 live calls under my belt at that point. And so I said, I just want to fail first. I just want to get my baseline. I want to see how much can I close on my own. Do I really need a coach? What if it turns out I'm a prodigy at this, and I don't need a coaching, and I regret investing into a coach? So let me go get some data. Let me go get some floor metrics before I invest.
So there's other people who will probably have that way of thinking. And I'm going to ask you a question here. Don't answer the way you think I want you to answer. But like,
Sure.
do you think that way of thinking served you well in those times of thinking, let me just fail on my own first?
I think it did. I think
Okay.
you just need to you need to set for yourself a hard timeline. So are you going to fail on your own for a month, 6 months? How much data do you need before you realize, yes, I need help? Because if you set that far too long out, I think it gets to the point where you're coping, you start blaming the marketing, you start blaming your leads, you start blaming all these other things. But I think after a solid month of trying to do it on my own, I realized, okay, I know where I'm at. It's nowhere near where I want to be. I can either keep on trying to learn this on my own from my own mistakes, or I can just invest in someone who's made the mistakes on their own, has learned firsthand, and accelerate the results that I want.
So a month, I want y'all to keep this in mind, a month into high ticket sales is when this was his timeline of knowing, okay, I've been doing this for a while or a decent amount of time. I'm not where I want to get to. Let me get help. What do you have to say to the person who's been like failing on their own for 6 months, a year? Bro, you made more than some of the people who've been in high ticket sales for a year, 2 years, 3 years. So the people who are still failing on their own, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, man, there's going to be no congruency when you talk to your leads. If you are too scared to invest into yourself, anything that you're selling, it doesn't matter if it's how to make more money, how to get more time freedom, whatever it is, if you're too scared to invest in yourself to get the results that you want accelerated or at a level that you could not achieve on your own, how are you going to be able to convince other people to do that? Because you're not speaking from place of congruency. I remember you said that to me on our first sales call. I remember you said to me, have you ever heard the expression that sales is a mirror? And I was like, no. And then you explained it, and I was like, man, this is a bunch of woo woo. Like, this is not going to work on me. But now that I've been in it for a while, it is 100% true that if you see money as something that needs to be hoarded, something that is limited and very smallly quantifiable, then you are never going to invest in yourself. And when someone gives you a money objection, you're going to believe them because that is the exact belief that you have around money.
Yes, yes. And it's money, it's time, it's even ego, right? Like I remember people who wanted to try on their own, like having a small conversation about that. It's like, well, fuck, I believe it, right?
Yeah.
Like I get it. I would want to go try on my own first. And so that's huge, man. It's a big mirror and you're in your own way. And I mean, a month isn't a million years, right? Like you're obviously a pretty sharp dude and you realize fairly quickly, which is why you've seen the success that you've seen. Now, so first of all, harassed you in the DMs too. So berated Chris in the DMs,
Yeah.
but you finally move forward. And now we're thinking like, dude, I'm about to be a fucking millionaire. I just invested in myself. Like, let's make it happen. It's not exactly how it went though.
Yeah,
Right?
no, it was
So
not.
about
yeah.
a month and a half into us working together, you were crashing out, right? What were the thoughts going through your head now at that time?
Yeah, I think I was at like below a 10% close rate at that point. And I've always been a high achiever. Anything that I've set my mind to, I've been able to accomplish well. And I was grinding. I was watching all of the content on school, all the YouTube videos. I was working on my script. I was doing every single thing that I thought to do. And I'm like, man, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, I left the mission field. My mom is sick. I'm 30 years old. I'm trying to.
Hard to believe.
Is black don't crack, Asian don't rage. This
Yes,
is Rush
sir.
Hour 5 right here, baby.
Yep.
But I'm doing everything I can to try to make it, right? And then I'm like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I just never had potential in sales, and I made a mistake. I shouldn't have invested with Dylan. I shouldn't have invested with Nick. Diego, you screwed me over. And what the heck am I doing with my life? And yeah, I remember that call, that one-on we had. It wasn't even anything tactical. It wasn't anything about like discovery or objection handling. I just straight up asked you, like, do I have potential in this? Like, can I make it?
And this is an interesting place to be, right? Because I'm sure a lot, like I've been there in many ways. It's like the gym, where when you first start going to the gym, you're training hard, right? You're eating right, and then everyone starts to notice the arms are hugging the sleeve. People are asking like, yo, what are you doing? And then from month 6 onwards, the results start to dip. But you're still doing all the right things. You're still eating the calories. You're still training hard. You're still getting the sleep, the water intake. But then you're not getting the result. I think it's called the valley of despair, something like that. And so when you were in that time that I'm sure a lot of people are in, what helped you still stay in the game, still do your pre-calls, still show up, still do follow-ups, still be present in those calls, despite how you were feeling about yourself? What kept you going?
Yeah. I think for me, it was just that failure was not going to be an option. Like, it was, I'm going to do whatever amount of, I think what Hormozy says, do such a high volume of work that failure would be unreasonable. And that was my attitude towards it is, yeah, you know what, at the end of the day, whether or not I have a gift for it doesn't matter. Whether or not I have potential in it doesn't matter. I'm just going to grind at this, lock in so hard so that I have to succeed. Because even if there were people who are going to be more naturally gifted at this than I was, I'll just outwork them.
Yeah. And you also, like, you came straight into closing too, right? A lot of people start with setting and then close. I also came straight into closing, which means we're just some egotistical motherfuckers.
Yeah.
There was certain beliefs you had about yourself that led you to go straight into closing as opposed to starting with setting. How were you seeing yourself? How were you viewing yourself in the mirror to lead you to do something like that?
Yeah, I just knew, for me, I love growing. I love achieving new things. And I knew that I could hop onto a setting offer and probably make more money off of the rip. But that I would just be dialing or DM setting and that I would just be bored every single day.
Yeah.
And even if I was making more money initially, let's say it took me 6 months as a setter before I became a closer, now it'd be another 6 months before I became a competent closer.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just start closing off the rip, take 6 months, and if I get the skills, the income will come. But for me, getting the skills earlier on was a bigger priority than hitting whatever number earlier on.
Yeah. And that's the best way to look at it, right? And like now that, I think you said something in Slack and you were like, I always wanted to make more than I made before, but this month I'm actually going to pay more in taxes than I made before, right?
Yeah.
And it's obviously been a month, but what have you been able to do as a result of hitting, this is like, how much were you making before? You said 3K a month, 4K a month. This is like fucking 6 months of paying a month.
Yeah.
Right? More, like 10 months of paying a month. I'm not a mathematician, guys. That's him. So how has that changed for you? What have you been able to do? What have you been able to pour into now that you're making the kind of money that you're making?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys who are in this space, they knew how much I was making before, and they knew about the record month. They're like, dude, what are you going to buy? What's the first thing you're going to do? Are you going to buy a
I don't
Rolex?
see a Rolex yet, bro. Your wrists are naked.
But no, I've never been a super financially driven person. For me, it's never been about the cash itself. It was more about acquiring the skills and becoming the kind of person who can make that kind of money. And so honestly, the first thing I bought was our fridge broke down and my mom wanted a new fridge and she was like, okay, let's look on Facebook Marketplace. Let's go look at like Best Buy, the used ones.
Oh,
and like, no, mom.
We're piffing
a
brand new one,
we're piffing
Mom.
a brand new fridge. Went to Best Buy, didn't shop around, asked how much is it, swiped my card, and then came back and that was it. So that was the first thing I bought, was just a new fridge for my mom. And honestly, the actual amount of money itself, again, having however much in my bank account, I don't really care. But the biggest difference is that there's no fear. Like, there's no type of anxiety about what if the marketing, goes poorly with this offer and I have to leave or join something else? I know that I have the skills now that I can go hop on any offer and I'm going to crush it.
Damn. How does that confidence feel for you, being able to have that?
Yeah, I think before I got into high ticket, as a missionary, I was making around like $3,000 per month. And I had never applied myself to actually trying to make money before. And so there was a part of me that just wasn't even sure, like, man, am I even the type of guy who can make money if I were to apply myself to it? And now that there's proof and I know that I can, there's just kind of I'm never gonna have to worry about money again.
And what beliefs did you have about sales too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the biggest thing for me with working with you is, yes, all the tactical stuff as well. But for me, it was, and that was worth the investment alone, was some of the beliefs that you helped me to shift. And so the first one that I would say for me, right, coming from the mission field, coming from a ministry background, where for me it was, I want to help people. That's the number one thing. But in the back of my mind, I thought that sales was kind of convincing people to buy things that are nice to haves and things that they don't really need to buy. And it felt slimy, like it felt unethical. And when you pass down, that classic phrase that sales is not something you do to people, it's something you do for people, that changed my perspective and the way that I show up on calls 100%. Where now, when I show up on the call, I don't feel like I'm trying to manipulate this person into doing something they don't really need.
Right.
But I'm trying to convince them to make a change that they've been needing to make for such a long time. And I think that is why I have been able to see success in sales, relatively quicker than a lot of other people will, is because I came from that ministry missions background. And so I think the tactical skills weren't there and some of the beliefs weren't there, but the heart was there. And so when I'm showing up on these calls, I want to serve people. And when in the back of my mind, I'm questioning whether or not I am serving them, I start to subconsciously pull back. And I'm not selling as well as I need to be. I'm not showing up in the way that I need to be showing up.
Right.
But I think it was just, I love the person in front of me. And if I love the person in front of me, what am I going to do? And so I think the second belief that you helped me shift was just that everything is a prospect's fault.
Yes.
Everything in their life, the reason why their wife is mad at them, the reason why they're not making the kind of money they need to be making, the reason why they can't retire early is because of the decisions that they made up until this point. And so it's not like I'm trying to sell you something that you don't really need. It's you've been needing to make a decision for so long, and these limiting beliefs have kept you from getting the outcomes that you're telling me that you want until now. And if I let you walk away from this conversation with those same beliefs intact, I am doing you a disservice. And so once that clicked for me, that everything is a prospect's fault, and this is something we have to talk about, is from a ministry background, when I'm counseling people, a lot of times they come to me with pain, and I'm trying to comfort them and say, hey, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
God has a plan for your life. Things are going to be, and I 100% believe that. But also, you have a responsibility as well. And so when you come to me with pain, I have to get you to recognize what you have played a part in creating the situation that is causing you and your loved ones to live in this pain. And so that belief shift for me allowed me to challenge them and come on calls and say, hey, I want you to win, and I want you to become the person that it takes to get the results that you're saying that you want.
Everything is their fault. And I think that's big, man. I think if you see yourself as this like manipulative person, then it's not going to work, because then the energy that you're coming with is very manipulative. It sounds very platitude. I was listening to a podcast with Bradley, and he was saying that if shifting your perspective, like, look, we want to make money, right? Don't get me wrong. But shifting your perspective to, I want to help this person and see what is in the way of them getting to where they want to get to.
100%.
And then internalizing it's their fault.
Yep.
Right? Like both of those things combined, the words will come, even if you don't say them the right way. Like the words will come. And I think that's what's happened with you, man. And so something that you said, though, and that you've mentioned a couple of times, is the ministry background. And so let's talk a little bit about that, how your faith and the values that you have played a role in the success that you've seen in sales and the people you've helped.
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest things for me, right, is if you're chasing some arbitrary number, right, you probably click on this video because the thumbnail says went from 3K to 30K months.
Right.
And that's cool. And that happened. And praise God for that.
Amen.
But I remember the morning after I hit that 30K month, going to church and thinking like, I thought I was going to feel like a different man. I'm a 30K per month closer now. And just thinking about Jesus died for me. He shed his blood for me. Why on earth did I think that making some arbitrary amount of money would make me feel more valuable as a person? But I think throughout the sales journeys, I've constantly had to re-anchor myself in that belief that what God says about me matters more than what my income says about me. And that allows me to be detached from the sale in a way that it just really doesn't matter. Like the person, you get these nerves when you're on the call. I'm not saying it doesn't happen ever, right? But I'm saying you feel like when you're on the call with a person that the prospect has the keys to your future, that if they close and if they buy, it's going to get you that much closer to getting to this income goal. It is the opposite.
It's the wrong heart posture, which is what you started with.
Yeah,
right?
you have the keys to their future. You have the ability to help them get to their goals. And so when you come in with that perspective, it's just like sometimes you close a deal and of course, if I was in that ring with that guy for an hour and a half and he closed, there's a part where I get up and you're just like, let's freaking go, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, I made however much off of this deal, but this person's life is going to change. Their wife's life is going to get better. Their kids' lives are going to get so much better. And so now when I look at my list of all the people that I've helped on our offer and all the clients I've enrolled, it doesn't look like a body list of like, here's people whose lives I've ruined. It's look at all these lives I've changed that I had the privilege and the honor to be able to do that with the skills that I've developed from working with you.
Yeah. Firstly, appreciate that. And you play a much bigger role, right? in being the man who shows up and does what he needs to do. And with that, like the idea of pressure, right? The idea of pushing somebody to do something. Your current offer is 80% two call closes. That was the culture.
Yeah.
20% one call closes, and you flipped that. And the reason was because they were afraid that we don't want to pressure people. And then they go say, oh, this person pressured me. With you flipping that though, and getting 80% one call closes.
90% one call closes.
90%. What kind of feedback have people been saying about you to the offer owner, to the coaches?
Yeah, and I think that's like the craziest thing, right? Is because people, I think it goes both ways. Like the prospects see us as just a sales guy, and in the grander scheme of the business, we kind of see ourselves as just the doormen who get people into it, and the fulfillment takes care of everything else. But I'll see reviews where when we do our client intake survey of like, how has the program been going so far? What did you appreciate the most? And I've had clients say to me, the conversation I had with Chris changed my perspective the most. And that's been the most valuable thing. It wasn't the resume feedback. It wasn't the career coaching. It was just that belief shift helped me to make the change that I need. And for me, like, man, who cares whatever 10% commission I got off that deal? I helped change this person's life.
Yeah. And these are people you challenge. And just to remind you from the beginning, these are high-level people as well. So these are high-level people who are already making multiple six figures a year, probably not used to being spoken to the way you're speaking to them. And you challenging them and having the tough conversations and telling them to look in the mirror, you would think that they'd be like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what do you know about me? Who are you to say these things? But they're thanking you. Even the people who didn't move forward are writing him LinkedIn messages thanking him, right? Like, I think there was a screenshot that you sent about that.
Yeah, there's a guy who just had a baby, and he was like, hey, it's the right product, it's the wrong time, but that was a really thought-provoking conversation, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Probably could have slapped him up more, right? Sweet. So let's talk a little bit. I want to end this off talking about like the tactical shifts, because I think you're really good at teaching and explaining, and I think you could break it down very fundamentally. Like, what, outside of the high level of like we challenge people, like what did you actually take to your calls that made this difference?
I think that it's, and this is for anyone who's considering which coach to invest in. There's a bunch out there, and at the end of the day, if you haven't invested, you just need to invest. If you suck at sales, you need to invest in a coach, whether it's Nick or not. Just the fact that you've invested, you're going to close at a higher rate because you're going to show up with more congruency. But if you are trying to figure out who to work with, like one of the most underrated things about you, and not glazing, but I'm just saying this from the bottom of my heart, is that like Nick's discovery questions are just bar none the best I've seen. And it's not like if you're a new closer, what you think you need is objection handling word tracks, because that's what hot on Instagram, and that's where you think you're losing the deal, is because of the objections you get at the end of the call. 100% that is not. And I will say, like boldface, I still don't think I'm very good at objection handling. Like that is not where my strength is. And I still drove around 70% of our company's revenue last month,
Jeez.
with barely getting objections.
70% by yourself.
70%,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And it was just like we would role play, where I'd be like, okay, Nick, I'll be my prospect. You pretend you're closing our offer. And you don't like this is after I've had like 50 conversations with this avatar and you've had none. But the way that you were able to quickly deduce what were the best questions to ask this type of prospect to drive out the most pain, even guys who've been on the offer for a year and a half, like they saw the loom of that role play and they're like, why am I not asking these types of questions? And so tactically what you need to do, and that's why we create the avatar doc to do this, is you need to figure out what are your prospects' number one pain points and what questions do you need to ask to surface that pain, because people don't buy because of the things that you say to them. People buy because of the things that you get them to say. It's not about what analogy, illustration, reframe you use. It's about getting them to admit that the pain point that they are facing is the pain point that they're facing, so that later when you begin to challenge them and you get them to admit to what the cost of their inaction has been, you have all this ammunition of, okay, but you said this is what you're going through right now. Do you see how your beliefs around money, time, whatever it might be, is the very reason why you're dealing with all of this crap?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's key, right? Is putting it on a platter for them, right? And using exactly what they said, not in a manipulative way. That's why we call it ethical, right? Ethical gaslighting. But I think you've been able to execute that so well. And this is why you hop on these calls. I mean, they hop on these calls and they say like, dude, I loved Chris, The tactical stuff was cool, but working with Chris was the best. And this used to happen for me on the doctor offer too, bro. I used to challenge the fuck out of these women, bro. Like I used to really, really challenge them. And these are doctors who were making similar money. And they would hop on the onboarding call almost every time, which I thought was crazy. Almost every time they'd hop on and be like, I just loved Nick so much. Like my conversation with Nick was so good. And I'm like, damn, I was challenged. I was really pushing you in that call. Like this is the type of things that they're saying. And I think the tactical stuff is important, but the thing that you shine the best in is your values and the man that you are, and they can feel that shit. Of course. So I want to end off here, man. I think this was really, really powerful. I think we spoke about this a little earlier, but the person who's listening to this call and this video, maybe they're thinking sales isn't for me, right? Maybe they're thinking, is this even real? Can I actually make a living off of it? And the people who are thinking, I don't need to invest into myself. I'm fine just watching the YouTube videos. I think those are two versions that previously existed in you. What do you have to say for them?
I would say that whatever vehicle you think that you want to commit to make money, right? Whether it's sales, whether it's e-commerce, dropshipping, whatever you think it is irrelevant. The question is not, am I cut out for sales? The question is, who are you? Sales, and this is not, sales is a personal development opportunity disguised as a business opportunity. Whether you make it in sales or ghostwriting or copywriting, whatever it is, you need to become the type of person who's able to make the type of money, the skills, the discipline, the character, the values that it takes to do it. I personally, I was a missionary in South Korea, preaching to a bunch of high schoolers. We were just at a mansion in Austin where I was preaching to millionaires, right?
Crazy.
And baptized someone in a pool with a bunch of White Claws next to the hot tub. If you told me that that's what my life was going to look like a year later,
we'll roll the clip.
yeah, I wouldn't have believed you. But I believe that God has brought me into sales, not so much that I can make more money. He doesn't he owns everything, right? I can make as much money as I need to, but it's because there's specific work that he wants to do in me while I'm in sales to become the kind of person that I have always meant to be. And for you, there is a version of you that is successful, whether you go into sales, whether you go and start a dry cleaners, whatever it might be, but you need to become that person. And in order to do that, you need to get help. You need to invest. You need to show up for yourself at a higher level to help other people show up for themselves at that level as well.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, this was a big one. If you made it this far, thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And if you want to get similar results as Chris, if you want to get out of your own way, if you're ready to take the next step, hit the link down below
as Chris knows, I pour a lot into my students, and so I don't take on a million people. But if you're actively selling on a roll, if you're ready to get out of your own way, ready to be congruent, hit the link below to apply. If not, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.